This is the Wally and Methot Show, powered by Barrhaven Ford. Now here are your hosts, Brent Wallace and Mark Methot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wally Methot Show live. It is Monday morning or Monday afternoon. I hope you voted, everybody, today. This is powered by Barrhaven Ford. We are 2 days away from the start of Ottawa Senator training camp, so we have got a big show lined up for you. It includes Sylvain St-Laurent from Droit, also former Ottawa Senator and current Vegas Golden Knight, and a friend of the show, Robin Lehner, is going to join us in a bit. But we want to get to all the action that surrounds not only rookie camp, but of course everything that's going on with the Senators getting ready to drop the puck on training camp. So without further ado, I'm not even going to waste time. We're getting right to it. Sylvain St-Laurent, our good friend who also works for RDS, is a contributor. He's a columnist. He does it all. He's been there since 1998, and I didn't even know that. We started at the same time, basically, in Ottawa. Welcome to the show.
You know, I was up and down for a couple of years. That's probably why you didn't notice me first.
But now I can't forget you. We've traveled the world together. We've done Sweden, done Sweden twice, if I'm not mistaken, a bunch of other places. So now we just get to hang out.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And I'm a big fan of the show. I've been watching from the first episodes. I love everything you guys do. I'm a huge fan of Mark Methot, as you might have noticed. But so glad to finally get a chance to catch up with you guys.
Thank you.
Who isn't a fan of meth, really? We'll get right down to it.
But who has a meth bobblehead in his kitchen?
I see, and Sly, I noticed that, so thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind. I'll have to get one of yours behind me, I guess. You'll have to send me one.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever they get made, like 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Fair enough.
Sleepy, I want to get right to it because there's so much to talk about what's going on right now. Obviously, the rookie camp is kind of just winding up. There's a game tonight. And before they get set to take to the ice Wednesday for main camp. But let's start with everybody's favorite topic, and that's Brady Tkachuk. So let's call this Mo Money, Mo Problem. So we're 2 days away from camp. Brady Tkachuk is not signed. Now it seems like some fans are upset about this. They're turning on Brady and the Tkachuk side because Matthew Tkachuk said that they want money. Where do you stand at this, and do you think that Brady Tkachuk is going to be at the start of training camp on Wednesday?
At this juncture, I do not expect him to be at the start of training camp, but I expect him to show up sooner than later. And I think right now, if Sens fans are panicking, it might be because they've been overexposed to that story, that situation. Yep. I feel like everything that we need to know on this topic, we already know. And right now, I think the next update we're going to get is when it gets done, when it gets settled. The only useful information right now, it's not about where Brady is in the world. It's not about, anything. Basically, the Senators made it clear they want to sign Brady for a long-term contract, 8 years. They've let the number float around. And for some reason, Brady doesn't feel comfortable with signing that right now. This is the only question right now that's relevant. Why doesn't Brady Tkachuk feel comfortable signing with the Sens? He is the only one that's able to provide us with a clear answer, and he won't do until he signs. So to me right now, it's an RFA situation. It will get settled. I do not expect Brady Tkachuk to sign a long-term contract. I would expect that he's going to have to explain himself at some point why he doesn't want to stay and what would make him want to stay. And to me, if the Senators, if I was in their shoes, my only concern would be to figure out why right now he's not comfortable at signing a long-term contract. Try to do everything in my power to make sure that if this one isn't a long-term, then the next one is.
Do you think the $64 million is the right number, that they're looking at the same number as Thomas Chabot?
I'm not sure, but I think it's fair. I think it's a good contract for a young player that isn't necessarily a top point producer, but is so useful for other situations, for all the other right reasons. I think that it's a fair offer for Brady Tkachuk, and I think that makes him really, that puts him in the position that he is in this organization. To me right now, he is the face of the franchise, and I think that $64 million tells us that he will be for the next couple of years, if he wants to.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, I think the biggest thing, and I was talking a little bit about it on Twitter, and I'm sure everybody else here has, I think there was a little bit of a contentious issue with regards to the dollar signs, right? And people were, well, why is he turning down $64 million? I've got a question for both of you. Do we even know that he's been offered $8 million a year yet? Like, has this actually gone out there? Like, are we aware of an actual dollar sign aside from the term itself?
Well, actually, it hasn't been public, but it's been discussed for a long time, and I heard from a lot of people that was likely
Okay,
very
so that
strong
was a
scenario.
legitimate number that
Oh
okay,
yeah,
so
for sure.
we know now, and another argument that a lot of people that I've noticed are making, and that's kind of why I'm bringing it up, is that the Sens are just willing to budge on signing bonus, and that's usually been an issue, or rather a philosophy with the Ottawa
Yep.
Senators over the last few years. Is that what's happening here? Is Brady looking for some signing bonus money? Like I'm trying to figure out what's happening, and I guess at the same time trying to calm down the fan base, right? So I don't want to raise all these questions and try to alarm anybody. But is this just a matter of signing bonus? Is that the issue?
I think Brent had something that he felt like he's got some information on that.
Well, I think you have to look at Mark Stone, and Mark Stone and him are obviously very close. And one of those contentious issues for Mark Stone was the signing bonus money and lockout protection. Now, obviously, there's no lockout that's needed, but the signing bonus gives you the money up front, and I think it's a huge part where the Ottawa Senators don't give out the signing bonus, and then they back end load all the deals. Now, I know it helps at the very last contract when you're qualifying for the next time, but players want their money and they want it now, right? Like it seems Ottawa's the only, not the only one, but very few, and I know Minnesota's another one that doesn't give out signing bonuses, and I think that that's a huge downside to the way that they negotiate deals in Ottawa. Meth, wouldn't you like to have your signing bonus money?
Yeah, but at the same time, just with the Mark Stone example that you provided, I think with him, it wasn't necessary. I'm sure that's a big reason. Financial reasons are always huge when it comes to business, of course. But I think also a guy like Stoney was in a much different position because he's in his prime at this point, right? And I'm sure he was in a win now mood. You come off to that 2017 season, you get a bit of a taste of it. His game's finally kind of coming into itself, and I think he didn't want to be a part of a rebuild. And to me, that's sort of the gist of what I got from his kind of reasoning with regards to that. I can't quote him on it, of course, but I think in Brady's case, I agree with both of you. I agree with Sylvain. It's kind of hard to turn down a carrot that big when we're talking about 8 times 8, but signing bonus, man, like that's what it comes down to, I think. And that'll be the issue now for the next few weeks. But I like what Sly said also earlier about, we can discuss his location, we can discuss his whereabouts and what he's doing and what he's eating for breakfast and, who he's talking to. But none of this matters because we know that both sides want something to happen. This is just all about leverage, and it's going to get dragged out as long as humanly possible because one side wants a number and the other side wants a number. We know Ottawa negotiates pretty hard. I've been through it here with the Senators too. It's not always very pleasant, but I'm sure it'll get done.
But Mark, I'm thinking, it's every player is different. Every contract is different. In this one specifically, I'd like to hear you on that. To me, you're such in a delicate phase of your rebuild, and Brady Tkachuk is such an important player. Right now, they're developing an entire team identity around him. Wouldn't you want to feel that he's in that position? And basically, Tkachuk, he's got good, strong counselors with him. They know that he's holding the big end of the stick, that basically he controls those negotiations. Wouldn't you want, if you were the Senators, to make him feel as comfortable as he would be? And, that's the one part of what we've read and heard the last couple of weeks where I'm not comfortable with. It's I don't think putting pressure on him at this point would help.
No, I agree. I 100% agree with you. This is not the guy you want to play hardball with, right? And again, I'm not the general manager. And when it comes to the dollar signs and numbers, I'm an analytics guy, I'm an analyst. If anything, I like to watch games and tell you who's playing well and not. So when it comes to the contract stuff, I'm out to lunch a little bit, but I agree. We're talking about your corner piece, like a guy that you're literally, you nailed it right there, Sly. You're building a team around. You want to make sure that he's there at camp right from the get-go. It's almost like you just want to lock all these people into a room and say, listen, you're going to sit in this room for the next 24 hours until something gets done, and then you're allowed to leave. Obviously, it doesn't work that way, but I feel like a piece like this, it's just the longer you drag this out, it creates more animosity and it destabilizes the fan base a little bit, whether you like to hear that or not. It's the case. Everyone's starting to freak out right now. I can't understand how it hasn't been done yet, but the counter argument to what I'm saying is it's happening across the league with other players too.
And really, it's going to get done. At one point or another, it will get done. I think Alfie held out, and I think he fared out okay with the fan base in the Ottawa area. So it just needs to calm down a little, right? Let's just get through. It'll get signed at some point, and it'll all work itself out. I'm shocked at how it seems that fans go from either they're on management side and then it sways to the player, and then like just chill out, just relax, just watch it
But
play
Brent, I
out.
mean,
And really, it's none of our money.
but October 14th will roll around. The Sens will play the Leafs. Tkachuk will be in the lineup. You'll have 2 or 3 big hits, a goal, and the fan base will forgive him. Right now, it's
Exactly.
about how does Brady want to what does it take to make Brady happy and want him to stay long term with Ottawa? And I think right now it's just a matter of, like you said, just get things done.
I agree.
All right, let's move on to another contentious issue, and that's Logan Brown. So, going camping, brought to you by Whitewater Beer, whitewater.ca, of course, and they signed Logan Brown to a 1-year deal, and then they bring in Tyler Ennis on a PTO, former Ottawa Senator, played Edmonton for a couple seasons. Let's first get to Logan Brown. Sly, are you okay with this? When I look at the number at $750,000 he signed for a 1-year deal as an RFA, it just means I didn't have any other choice. I had to sign this. I'm not sure I'm going to be here much past training camp, but we'll see what happens now. But that $750,000 tells me that there wasn't any negotiating room.
No, I guess that was a take it or leave it approach. And you know what? I was very disappointed in the way Logan Brown handled the last offseason. I feel like right now, if you look at the Senators' depth chart, the owner, Eugene Melnyk, kind of hinted at the fact that the team was going to try and bring in a veteran center for a second line. But so far, that hasn't materialized. Not to say that it's not going to happen, but so far, we're still waiting. At this very moment right now, I believe like the only option people are talking about right now for a second line center is Shane Pinto. And Shane Pinto played great hockey when he came on last year, but he only has 12 pro games under his belt. So you can either keep on building, developing like he did, but development isn't linear. Like sometimes players take a step back, and if he doesn't have a great camp, then maybe Belleville becomes an option. Then who do the Senators have in stock to play second line center? Well, if Logan Brown ever complained about not getting a fair shot at playing in the NHL, well, at this juncture, at this training camp, normally he would have an equal chance as anybody else to win that spot at center. So I was actually, I think it's a good thing that he finally comes on board and at least going to be at training camp. And then the ball will be in his court.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with regards to Logan Brown, and I'll get to Tyler Ennis in a second, for the life of me, I can't understand how you would imagine, like if you're Logan Brown, I can't imagine finding a better opportunity around the NHL than right here in Ottawa with this current group, with the current situation at center. To me, if he's applied himself and with the training in the summer and the off season, and perhaps addressed a little bit the skating or at least a bit of that conditioning level, where I feel like there's times out there where he looks lethargic, but that's just his playing style. But if he could address that speed that's lacking, that little extra jump in his step, if you will, I feel like there'd be a really good opportunity for them. And of course, I think we're all kind of ignoring the elephant in the room. It's the injuries, right? At his age, dealing with all these injuries now that he's had that's held him back and out of the lineup, I feel like it's really stunted that progression, even with your exposure to general managers that are coming into Belleville to watch you play and all that. So I think right now, assuming he's had a very good summer, this is ripe for opportunity for Logan Brown right now. This is an opportunity for him to make a splash here at training camp and stick to this hockey club. And with Tyler Ennis, I mean, the numbers haven't been great over the last 2 seasons. I don't really know where that fits, but it's low risk for Ottawa, right? So I can understand the move. You have the potential veteran leadership that you can bring in the room. And if he doesn't have a good camp, you let him go and your hands are clean.
Yeah, about the value, the trade value for Logan Brown too. I was just talking with Alain Vigneault last week, and we touched on different subjects. And at some point, I said, no, it's a good thing that you guys are bringing in Derek Brassard to play with you guys. And he said, you know what? The thing with Derek is we know he can play at this juncture. Teams right now are worried about prospects who didn't play much hockey last year, like either at the AHL level, playing maybe 20, 25 games, or in juniors, pretty much, not playing in Ontario, playing a handful of games in the WHL. So Logan Brown, I kind of feel like he falls in that category. Since he hasn't played basically for a year and a half, you don't know what you have in him. So are other teams really going to, want to pay to get a guy who's a little older, who's been hurt, and who hasn't played in 18 months? So I think right now he's got everything to win by being in camp and pushing for a roster spot.
Agreed.
Interesting. So let's go then, Alex. We'll take the the depth chart board and have a look. Do you guys think Tyler Ennis is going to make this roster coming out of camp?
I think he's in tough. Right now, you give him a good spot, but I feel right now the team would rather have the younger players play there, whether it's Parker Kelly or even Igor Sokolov, if he can win a battle. I think Tyler Ennis, like Mark said, it's a low risk, high reward type of situation, but I don't see him winning a battle at this point.
I agree, and it's funny. Sly just mentioned that I have the same guys. I've got Parker Kelly, I've got Igor Sokolov, obviously Logan Brown, but I think if you've got a young player that's playing equal to Tyler Ennis's level and looks very confident, it's a no-brainer. He's going to be in that lineup. So to me, if you're looking at that forward group at the very least, I don't like the third line with Tyler Ennis and White together on that line with Paul. I feel like you're misusing Paul. Nick Paul's taken such a big step forward. We saw his progression last year. We saw his progression at the World Championships. I had an opportunity to watch him play. He looked fantastic. He's a legitimately good third line player in the NHL with potential to play on that second line if anybody gets hurt. So for me to pair him with players like White and Ennis right now is a disservice to him, with no offense, of course, to Colin White. I just think that you'd have to make some adjustments there. So if a player happens to step up, play very well, I don't think Ennis has really much of an opportunity here in this group.
Yeah, I still think they move Colin White to the wing and if it's going to be Logan Brown, they put Logan Brown there, or they find another center. But they're certainly thin at the middle of the ice. And the Logan Brown thing it's right there in front of him. He just has to figure out a way to put it all together. Can he do that? Maybe. He's healthy. Apparently the back issues have been dealt with. We'll see if he can find that spot, though.
Yeah. So what about the decor here, boys?
Sleepy.
What are we thinking?
You know what?
So the one thing that always pops up in the chat is Eric Brandstrom. So he's not on the list. So where's Eric Brandstrom fit in this roster?
Do we know for sure if Victor Methot has beaten up to a spot yet?
You mean has he earned a spot? Is that what you're asking?
I'm wondering if it's at this juncture if Methot is the clear-cut left-handed third pairing defenseman, or if Brandstrom doesn't have a chance to bump him to maybe number 7 on the roster.
It's funny you say that, because I've been fighting, just based off watching the last few games there of the year when everyone was together and Methot was in the lineup. I don't know. I mean, for me right now, if you were to ask me if I'm going to build this team and put a team together on the ice, Brandstrom's the odd man out, but I'm open to him playing on this team, and I'm not set in stone with that decision. I think that training camp is going to be crucial, especially on that back end right now, on that third pairing. And so if Brandstrom can play lights out, good on him. Then he's got an opportunity. I don't like the idea of having a guy like Brandstrom and Methot in the lineup on the back end. You can call me old-fashioned. I think that's too small for a decor, especially with the identity that this team is trying to go with, being a little bit of a tougher team to play against. They're physical. They're playing fast. Obviously, we all want puck possession, but at the end of the day, we see what's been leading to success at the NHL level in the postseason, and the trend is very clear. There's a lot of bigger bodies on that back end that have great reach and that are reliable. So for me right now, to answer your question, Sly, I don't think that Methot has it locked in, but if he can have a decent, solid camp and play pretty consistently, I think it's his spot to lose.
You know what might be interesting, though, is Brandstrom plays at home and Methot type plays on the road. The only reason I say that, you can protect, your third pairing a bit more at home, and you start to move some guys around. I've seen them do that in the past with Brandstrom. They try to play him at home more.
Yeah, and the only thing with that is that you've got guys coming in and out of the lineup all the time. So you're going to start shooting their confidence a lot. Like I've been through that as a call-up when I was getting into the NHL. And it got to the point where you're just like, you don't even trust yourself. You almost feel safer on the bench than you do on the ice playing. And it's a toxic thing to do to your lineup, especially with defensemen. A young group like that back there, you want to feed their confidence. Whoever you're going with in your top 6, you got to commit to that after training camp and at least give them an opportunity, give them a couple games grace to kind of get into the groove of things. But to flip-flop like that, although I understand it, Wally, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I didn't say it was big on my list. We've seen it happen. Sorry, Sly.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I kind of see some movement on defense as the season goes on right now. I mean, Michael Del Zotto, I like everything he said and everything he did since signing with Ottawa. I mean, he said that he chose Ottawa over another offer because he felt there was an opportunity there. We saw him on social media recently taking a couple of the younger players to dinner. He had a wonderful interview with Ian in The Athletic. But here's a guy who played third pairing minutes last year with the Blue Jackets, which wasn't the best defensive team in the NHL. And same thing the year prior to that, he was with Vancouver and didn't play more than third pairing minutes. So right now he's got every good intention. It's either the Sens see something that the previous teams didn't see, and that we see a different Michael Del Zotto, and he restarts his career, or maybe we're asking a little bit too much out of him. But either way, I can see movements with guys, starting the season and maybe moving up the roster and lineup and things changing again during the course of the season.
Yeah, I agree. And it's the same thing with Nick Holden. I know a lot of people kind of had him written off. He was almost an afterthought to a degree based off line projections that I was seeing online and right, ensuing after the trade, of course, we're picking him up. So I to me, that's a good player to have on that third pairing. I think he's got it locked unless he has a terrible training camp. I think we can expect him to see, and he's going to complement any player that plays to his left. So if he's with Methot, for example, I really like that pairing. But to go back to Brandstrom, like you guys all said, and I'm not trying to deviate from the topic too much. I know a lot of people online are huge fans of him. For the life of me, I can't understand it all the time. He's got a ton of online support, and I respect that, but I don't get it. Honestly, I've watched him play a ton, and every time he's got the puck and he's lugging it up the ice, I'm just wincing, waiting for someone to lean into him into the wall. If he can figure out how to protect himself a little bit better, maintain that efficient style gameplay, along with perhaps trying to figure out a way to get on that second power play unit and really anchor it properly, that'll give him a best opportunity. Every player on this team needs a role. And when you want to stay in a lineup, you need a role, special teams role. Are you a penalty killer or are you a power play guy? Well, Brandstrom's not going to be killing any penalties. He can be a power play guy in that second pairing to perhaps complement Shabbat when Shabby gets off the ice. So if he can figure that out in camp, it's going to be crucial. But really, when it comes down to it, guys, these are all projections. We don't really know anything until that first exhibition game starts. And then obviously as the camp progresses, we'll get a better, clearer picture. But right now it's anybody's game on that back end.
Yeah. And interesting. And we always know by the end of the year, they've used 9 or 10 defensemen at some point. And so all that, this is the top 6 and it'll be the top 6 all year, just doesn't work because there's always going to be injuries or somebody's moving in and out of the lineup. All right. Moving on. We're running out of time. So let's get to rookie status. Brought to you by sportsinteraction.com/Wally and Methot. Sports Interaction is Canada's odds makers. Of course, all kinds of NFL betting going on, and soon there'll be all kinds of NHL betting. Let's start with Mark Kostelic is one of the guys, and I know, Sleepy, you've been at training camp, that has really looked pretty good. There's been a few others, Angus Crookshank, there's Sokolov and whatnot. Who's really stood out for you that you've noticed?
Well, the one guy that basically people didn't think about much. One day I was there and I just marveled at his ability to shoot the puck is Robbie Arventi. Either like the one-timer on the right circle, a la Ovechkin, or just a quick release when he skates down the slot. I mean, I don't know how it's going to translate in the North American game. I know shooting is just one part of it. There's so much more going into it. But I think that this is one guy that nobody's talked about. And when I saw him practicing, I was quite impressed. Of course, Kostelic he's been good, but he's a little older. So you expect guys who are 22, 23 years old to have good camps, good rookie camps against 18 years old. I kind of like Maxence Guénette from the get-go. He's a guy who could basically become a steal as a 7th-round pick. If he ever makes it as number 7 defenseman or number 6 defenseman, he's got, from people I spoke to, he's got some confidence issue he needs to work out. Basically just, believing that he really belongs in the pro game and in the NHL. But the way he played against the Montreal rookies last weekend was pretty good. And I think that he's another guy to watch for.
Is there one guy that we think is going to end up playing with the Sens this year? And I say that I think Ottawa has used 22 or 23 rookies in the last 3 years into the lineup. So there's going to be somebody at some point makes their NHL debut. Who do we think ends up in those spots?
I don't know. Maybe I guess you couldn't bet against Angus Crookshank at this point.
Yeah, Yeah, it looks like they need, like, whoever it's going to be is a fourth line type player, because they're obviously top six. It seems pretty set. So whoever that, like, we're looking. I know Parker Kelly is not on that list, but Parker Kelly or it's Kostelic, or it's one of those guys that really can grind. Angus Crookshank, another pest type guy.
So here's a question for you guys then, because I have no idea. I don't know who any of these guys are. Who are you bumping out of that fourth line? I mean, if you're talking about any of these potential
I'm going by injuries.
Players. No, okay, but I'm saying out of camp, because I know people were talking online a little bit about how there is a spot available, and
Sure.
if you play really well, you can bump a player. Who's the player that we're bumping out? Who's expendable on that fourth line that we have? You're not getting rid of Watson. You're not getting rid of Formanton. So is it Tierney, your centerman?
I don't know. I thought we were talking about
that just sits.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about guys who might come up at some point during the year and get their start at some point, whether it's November or January.
Yeah, no, we were.
But there are guys.
I'm
I will
adding
say
another
for Mark,
layer to that question. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's always typically somebody that gets their 8-9 games out of the start of camp just to see what they can do. So yeah, maybe there is a guy that this year will be that guy. So Sleepy, do you see one particular player that could end up being, like the Alex Formanton, Drake Bathersons, whatever, and play the couple games till they get sent down?
Well, at this juncture, after playing a few years in the minors and the way, he handled himself in this one NHL game, I think Parker Kelly might be one injury away from getting his start in the NHL. Otherwise, I don't think that maybe a rookie, slides in, whether it's on defense or offense. I don't think there's some room.
I agree.
Last question before we let you go, and then Robin Lehner is going to join us, and that is this a playoff team, Sly?
It depends. We're going to bring it back to, take it full circle. Is Brady Tkachuk there to start the season? And that's what I'm saying right now. And it's been, a lot of things have been dangled in front of him. If you miss the start of camp, then you might, start behind the 8 ball for the Olympics. I feel like the Sens need Brady Tkachuk because it's still a very young roster. Last year, we saw this team develop into a team that never gives up, always fights till the end. But I think that maybe if Tkachuk isn't there, the leader isn't there, the rest of the team will struggle to keep that identity. I see the Senators pushing until the last month of the season if Tkachuk is there from the start, and maybe missing by a few points, but I don't think they'll miss by much. I'm not going to start comparing teams because we all know that there's a bunch of teams that are ahead of them in their development, but a lot of those teams sometimes will just, one or two of those teams, we don't know which, but for whatever reason will not be able to figure it out this year and will not have that good of a season. So I think the Sens can maybe finish 11th, 10th in the Eastern Conference and miss the playoffs by a few points.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%,
Interesting.
Sly. I think you're bang on. And I think also, I know, Wally, we're in a crunch here. The one other X factor for me, at least, is the goaltending. I think if Matt Murray comes out strong, I know I'm stating the obvious, but if Matt Murray can play strong right from the get-go here and play like the player he can be, it'll give the team such a great opportunity. And of course, to add to Sly there, Tkachuk is your bread-winning horse on that front end there that leads the charge. And without him in the lineup, I feel like your identity's out the window.
What happens if Matt Murray struggles?
Oh,
Sly?
Don't ask me. Sly has the answer. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm trying to coach a house league Pee Wee girls team this year, so I'm gonna try not to get ahead of myself. But you know what though, I don't think there's room on defense. I don't think there's room up front for rookies. But what if both goaltenders can't get the job done and Philip Gustafsson is tearing it up in the AHL?
Yeah, good question.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed.
I can see Gustafsson playing well. Like, the other thing is, and they talked about having almost a goalie taxi squad, right, with COVID going on, that there will be a goalie just quickly available if anything were to happen. I can see that happening. The other issue is if they don't sign Brady, what do they do with the salary cap before they start the season? And they need to get to the cap floor, which I think they're off by like $3 million.
Oh, I think they'll sign Brady. Just a matter of how many years to the contract.
Yeah, agreed.
So is that the pressure point then? Just they got to get him signed because they've got to get to the cap floor?
Well, it's not just. I mean, it's your best player. I mean, outside of Thomas Chabot, it's like there are so many reasons why Brady has all the leverage right now. And any team apologist out there right now hates to admit it. It pains them to say it, but Brady has all the leverage, and Brady knows it, and Brady's dad knows it, and Brady's dad's in Brady's ear. His agent knows it. His brother knows it, as we all know. All the Senator fans absolutely despise Matthew Tkachuk now, even more so than before. So, I mean, it's just the harsh truth right now is Brady's got all the cards, and this isn't a greed thing. I'll finish it off with this because that's been a common message that I've been getting a lot of on Twitter with regards to my 2 cents on the issue itself. People seem to think, well, he's being greedy, and you got to think about the team, and you don't want to. They're comparing it to Toronto's cap space. I'm like, we're not even at the cap floor in Ottawa. We're not even on the floor. So there's plenty of cap space. We're talking about the lifeline player of this hockey club. You can't quantify it all the time, right? It's not numbers. And people made comparisons to Alfredson. They made comparisons to Shabbat. Well, should he be paid more than Shabbat? Thomas Shabbat is underpaid right now. He is an underpaid player who is playing 30 minutes a night and signed that deal before, okay? Whatever year it was. So you can't make the comparison. Right now it's different. Projection-wise, the cap's going to go up in a couple years, 3 to 4 seasons. You can't compare it. So as a fan base, we need to separate ourselves from emotion and just look at it from a business standpoint. Anybody out there who's negotiating for a job always wants to get paid the maximum amount allotted, right? You want to make your worth. Brady's doing that right now, and he has all the right people in his corner. So he's not going to be lacking any confidence. We just need to forget about it, enjoy the camp as it is right now. Brady will get done behind closed doors. Everybody's going to be okay.
Sleepy, I have a question. You've been around the rink. Did Matthew Tkachuk's comments raise any eyebrows?
Not much. I mean, it wasn't like anything. Well, I mean, the only thing that was surprising was the fact that he went on the record and publicly stated it. But I don't think he said anything completely shocking to people that that are used to the business.
I agree.
Well, good stuff. I loved it. I loved their chat, and I look forward to seeing how this all plays out because it's fun to sit and just watch this transpire because it gives us something to talk about. Sleepy, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate your time. We'll be chatting with you soon, and good luck on the season, my friend.
Anytime, guys.
Thanks, Sly.
There goes Sylvain St-Laurent, the sports editor from Le Droit, and of course he does RDS contributions as well, and he's a columnist. He does everything, and of course he's now a great 11-year-old girls hockey coach, which I didn't know before him. So he's getting out there. All right. Anyway, without further ado, we now bring into the Whitewater chat room. He is a Masterton Trophy winner. He's a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. He was drafted by the Ottawa Senators, and it is Robin Lehner, all the way from beautiful Las Vegas, where it's always nice and warm.
Look at that background. How you doing, Rob?
What's going on, sir?
No, not much. How are you guys doing?
Great. The palm trees look very good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Lenny, is that your background? Is that your backyard?
Yeah, I think it's reflection right now. Yeah, it's my backyard. It's nice.
Yeah,
not bad.
Good for you. Good for you.
Now, did you just go on a safari adventure? Did I see this right? The Sahara Desert, maybe?
Yeah, no, I was a little bit everywhere this summer. Needed to mentally recharge from this lockdown we've been in for a while, so had some fun, and now I traveled around a bit.
And how was the desert?
It was very nice. It was very nice. Get to wrestle with some camels and spend a few days out in the desert.
Right, Lenny, were you in like Morocco or Casablanca? Like, where were you? Casablanca?
Yeah, I was in Casablanca for a while. We took a car about 14 hours out to a place called Mersuga, and we took some beach buggies, like 5 hours out in the desert. Had a camp there and stayed for a few days.
That's awesome. Good for you guys.
Yeah. And last question about your summer is, did you just recently hurt your ankle, or are you all healthy? What's going on?
No, I'm healthy. I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
Typical Canadian
and this
stuff.
might be an old tweet.
All the backstories.
No, wait, I got plenty of that stuff coming up later.
Yeah.
The season that's upon us. Are you excited that it's now basically, I mean, you're the number one guy as you go in here to Vegas. And I know you and Marc-Andre Fleury, despite people trying to say you weren't very close or all that stuff, we're very good friends, and it's tough to see him go. So after all that stuff that's played out, are you excited to how this season's going to unfold for you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a regular season. Same goal. I played with a lot of ever since I was in Ottawa. I played with a lot of other good goaltenders, and I think that's necessary on any successful NHL team. And we brought in Brasser here. He's a great goalie as well, and obviously tough to see Mark go, but I don't look at it any different, Mark being here or not. I still, approach it as it's my net to lose. I've always done that, and it's the same. You just gotta compete.
When it comes to Fleury, you guys aren't going to see them until, I think it's January. January the 8th is your first meeting against Chicago. Are you looking forward to having him at the other end of the ice if that's what ends up happening?
Well, yeah, I mean, look forward to a lot of reasons. Being played in Chicago, it's a lot of good people and good players there. It's always fun playing them. It's always been. But yeah, it will be. It's always fun playing against former players or former teams and stuff like that. So it should be. It should be fun.
Just quickly, veering off topic a bit, Zach Smith just announced his retirement. I know you won a Calder Trophy with him in Binghamton. I know you guys are pretty close, if I'm not mistaken. I guess, was it tough to see him go? I know it's always tough to see people retire that you're always close with.
Yeah, I mean, he had a hell of a career. He came in a year before me there, and when I got to Binghamton, he was already kind of a little bit more established, being the guy going up and down. But it's as you said, it's always hard to see people retire. But I think he's been struggling with some back issues and stuff like that, and he's had a hell of a career, and he's a great player, and he's a even better guy. So hopefully he has a great next chapter of his life now.
Hey, and Lenny, I agree with you there. Smitty's unbelievable teammate, and shout out to Zach Smith out there. He's been fantastic career, great guy off the ice. You talk about training a little bit there, and I read some stuff, Lenny. So have you lost some weight? You're a little lighter now? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, a little bit. I had to shed a few. You know how it's been. It's always a little bit up and down. It's just, some years they're on me, some years they're not. But no, I guess this one of those years, just turned 30, which is, it goes by quick, and try to be as light as I can now going forward, and see how long I have left.
What'd you do for diet? Did you have to diet or anything like that, or just more conditioning? What did you have to change?
Just been training hard. No, nothing crazy. Just been training hard, just trying to get ready for this season. It's back to an 82 game season, all that stuff. And hopefully perform as good as possible, play a bit more. So I've been lucky with injuries, except some concussions. So I just wanted to give my body a little bit of a break.
Good man.
You're training with John Wood, right? He works with MMA, if I'm not mistaken. How's that training going?
No, it's been fun. It's fun here in Vegas. There's a lot of fighters here. He's started with John Wood. Obviously, his gym has a lot of UFC guys, and been doing a bunch of work with them. And no, it's been good. It's been good. Get punched around a little bit. Never hurts.
So wait, so you're doing some mixed martial art training?
We're doing mostly boxing.
Less
risk of twisting anything, but been doing a bunch of boxing with them, and it's fun.
Good for you. Yeah, been doing a lot of. I started boxing in my teens, Lenny, but I don't think a lot of people out there truly appreciate how difficult it is, like conditioning wise, when you're just hitting the bag or sparring with people. It's a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, no, when you start getting up 10, 12, 13 rounds of 3 minutes, you're dead. So it's good conditioning for sure.
That's awesome.
I would like to go back to your Ottawa Senator days, and there's a couple of stories I have to ask you about. One is your relationship with Rick Walmsley. How would you describe your relationship with your former goalie
why are we
coach?
always talking about Wammer on the show? Like, I don't have one positive thing to say. So, Lenny, maybe you can say some nice things about him, okay?
No, I mean, Methot knows my relationship with Wammer, but no, you know what the crazy thing is? We hated each other, but later in my career, we kind of reconnected. I guess, when I was in Ottawa, I wasn't the most calm, mature guy either. So it was kind of, we didn't click. So we had a lot of fights, and the funny part was Brian and Tim were usually in the stands laughing at us. They thought it was hilarious.
It's true.
Okay, wait a sec.
We would be screaming at each other every third practice, and they would just sit laughing in the stands. But no, we had a special relationship, me and Walmer. But we definitely reconnected since then. And I've always been like that. Like I can dislike a person a lot, but if he's helped me, I'm always going to give him credit, and he did help me with quite some things. And but we did argue a lot.
That's it. Okay, so I have one question to ask you about that. Was there nearly in Binghamton, you two nearly come to blows in the coach's office?
Yeah, no, that happened many times, but especially in Binghamton. I remember we played against Syracuse. It was actually my first fight in the AHL. We were up 5-0 after about half the game, and I got into a fight, and we were up 5-0 going into the third, and we lost 6-5. And for some reason, he blamed that loss on me because I got thrown out. So it turned pretty ugly in the coach's office.
But speaking of fight, how exhausting is it to fight as a goalie with all that gear?
I don't remember. I haven't fought since. I've tried a bunch, but none have taken me up on it yet.
I can't imagine why. Christ.
All right. So staying with Ottawa, at one point they brought in Ben Bishop. So you had Craig Anderson, you, and Ben Bishop, which were three all number one goaltenders and all very good. Did it cause any issues? Or I know there was injuries and people weren't playing, but what was that dynamic like with the three of you there?
I thought it was good, to be honest. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, me and Bish, we started in Binghamton together. We both played, and it was that shortened lockout season, and then we got up, and Craig was injured a bit, so we got to both play a little bit. And then he got traded, which I think was one of Ottawa's biggest mistakes, to be honest. But they should have kept him. But no, it eventually worked out for all of us, so it was good.
I used to love just sitting with you. Back in the day, it was a lot different than it is even now, and even Meth can attest to this, where you got a chance just to sit in the locker room and talk, and you were always very good to me. We would just shoot the shit about whatever was going on. But you always said that you needed to grow up more after you left Buffalo. Are you a lot, like, how much different are you maybe in net compared to when you were in Ottawa?
No, I'll be very different. I mean, it's changed a bit now, but it's hard to get into this league at an early age as a goaltender, And I got in at 19 years old in Ottawa, and I was up and down quite a bit and broke in early. And I think looking back at it, I think it was a bit rushed. It also, the culture back then, AHL, NHL, 10, 11 years ago, it's a lot different than now. And I think that I think goalies they get ready mentally around 25, 26, and there's a lot of pressure, and everyone deals with it differently. And the actual pressure part on the ice, it's not been an issue, but it's just being professional, growing up, being mature, and I had some of those issues in Ottawa, and then when I got that concussion in Ottawa, that everything kind of turned sideways for me, and it took a few years to kind of get back from that.
That's against Carolina, and Clark MacArthur collides with you in goal. I still remember that play like it was yesterday because it seemed to change everything.
Yeah.
So, did you ask to be traded out of Ottawa, or how did it play out that you ended up going to Buffalo? And I know Tim Murray becomes the GM there, so of course that makes a big difference. But how did you, I guess, get to Buffalo?
Well, it's pretty simple. I got injured, got sent home. Hamburglar what did it go, 21-1 or 20-0-1, something like that. They stopped calling me, and then I got traded. That was pretty simple.
Okay. Henrik Lundqvist just announced his retirement too. Did he play much of a part with you? Are you guys at all very close? The only reason I say that is because your dad used to work him out, if I'm not mistaken, and you were around with him. Is there a close relationship with the two of you?
No, not as much as it was between him and my dad, but I've always had deep respect for him. Obviously, he's best Swedish goalie of all time, play over here, and he's Hall of Famer in my eyes. But sad to see him retire as well. But he's got to take care of his health, obviously, and it's obviously a big hole in with Swedish goaltending with him out of the league.
I need to ask you about Gothenburg specialty. So I've been to Gothenburg, and there is a thing called a shrimp sandwich. Are you a big shrimp sandwich guy?
Yeah, no. If you're from Sweden, I think you're a big shrimp sandwich guy. They're good.
I didn't. So there's a hotel or something you go to the top of that has the restaurant, and that's supposed to be the best place for it. I didn't like it at all.
Oh, really? Nah, I mean, they say it's good there. It's because it's kind of big there, but I think it's more out in the coastal restaurants that has the best ones.
Do you go home very often? Do you get home every summer?
Not every summer, but I spent some time home this summer. It's been obviously, this is the first time, kind of set in one place. I was a little bit of a ping pong ball there for a few years where it was kind of tough to find time. You had to go to new cities and reestablish life a few times. So my son was born in Ottawa, and he's been in 5 teams since, and he's about to turn 7. So it's nice to get some stability where you live.
Crazy how time flies. I need to ask you about, you're a big animal lover, if I'm not mistaken. Did you turn your house in Ottawa into a zoo?
No, it's all rumors. People lying. That's right, Methot. Eh?
I'm not saying nothing, man. I don't want you to hunt me down,
yeah.
Lenny.
You've
been a really, really big advocate for a lot of mental health stuff, and I don't want to step on Wally right now because he's usually driving this. But what are you doing now? Like, what's your routine like? Like, what are you doing to stay kind of level and on cue and make sure that your mind's right? Like, have you really made any like life altering changes with like your day to day, like leading up, and especially in the summertime? Like, for players, it's easy to get into trouble. It's easy to find stuff and kind of get distracted. Like, what have you changed aside from the obvious and having a family? What are you doing differently now?
No, I think there's a bunch to it. I think biggest thing is being open and honest and talk about it. It's one way to just keep leveled and stay the course, but also the good really build that support system of just having regular talks with my psychiatrist and take my medicines, all that types of things, and also just try to live life as well. It's obviously been hard the last year and a half through COVID. It's ups and downs for everyone, but I think just realize there are some issues and work on them and do a lot of self-research and listening to not just one source, because I keep saying that to a lot of people, right? It's obviously different levels of NHL players or, lawyers or whatever profession you want to go into. Same thing with psychiatrists and doctors and therapists, there's so many people that just get stuck with one person, and a lot of times a very old-fashioned, type psychiatrist that puts, it's only one way, or a lot of the time the old way. And I've been lucky. I've been through a bunch of them, a bunch of psychiatrists. I now have a really, really good one, and you need to have one that has an open mind of what works for you, because sometimes you get stuck with people. It's like this is it, and this is the only way. And I had to do a lot of trying of what works for me with my life and my profession. So it's also about questioning and researching a lot for yourself and try to find what works. So I think it's a mix of everything, but not just get settled with the first option that gets thrown at you. And I know I have the luxury to do that. So it's a lot of people especially here in the US, they don't have that luxury to get treatment or diagnostics and medicines at all. So obviously that's a lot of things that I'm trying to work on too, to try to change that and work with some organizations to see how we can end that madness.
Yeah, and I think first of all, and I commend you for everything you're doing. I think the biggest thing for me, aside from obviously overcoming all this in your career, is just being so open about it. Like you've been very open about it on social media. You've kind of put yourself out there, and in turn, you break down all these barriers. Whereas we know we're very conservative typically in hockey. Players don't like to speak up too much. They try to restrain their personalities a little bit. I think by doing what you're doing, along with other players, of course, you're making it easier for players to address these issues that they're dealing with, right? So I guess
it's such a two-sided coin, like at one, in one way, the rehabilitation type community, all you learn in rehab and with doctors and all that stuff is about being open about the people around you, right? And then you kind of get into a culture and atmosphere in hockey or with an NHL program where it's like, you got to keep this quiet. And that's because we get punished financially, right? And we get looked at as a risk, but you got to take a decision, like it's going to punish you financially or you're going to take your life, right? So I took the decision to be open and honest about it, while, as you know, Mark, it's the clubs or the GMs and coaches, they don't like it. They still don't like it here in Vegas. They didn't like it in Chicago. They didn't like it in Long Island either. Lou was very supportive in Long Island regarding, my article and stuff like that. But, talking about it a lot, it's not popular. But I'm doing it because it's a part of my journey. It's part of my rehabilitation. It's part of me being healthy. So I just got to do what I got to do. And there's still long steps. It's big steps still be taken, because I think a lot of players still have or they're still scared of getting help, still scared of the program because they think that the program is a punishment, and it's not. It's more the people that doesn't have issues, that like to do something here and there, that don't believe they have an issue. They feel like they get punished, and then they give the program a bad reputation, which obviously hurts a lot of people that want to get help. So I would like more education towards our players, that the program is there for you. They're not punishing people for needing help. They're not punishing people that have a legitimate problem, and I think that still needs to be addressed, and I wish I got that was my issue, right? You knew me in Ottawa in my early days. It wasn't pretty at times, and I'm not scared to talk about it. You were one of the guys that had to calm me down a few times, but it was because I was hurting, I was hurting inside. I was hurting with a bunch of things in my life, and I wish I would have gotten help way earlier than I did. It had to go 5-6 years of madness before cracking down and take that step, but not a lot of people are lucky to get there. Either they get out of the league and it turns really ugly, and it's unfortunate. I think more people should be open towards it, and obviously the program has things to get better at as well.
Yeah.
When I think of a couple of times on Twitter, I've mentioned that I deal with anxiety, and there's been, I'm surprised at the number of people that reach out to me. So when you open up, like, are you flooded with messages, and do you try to talk to as many as you can? I'm just curious. Like, hockey players, obviously, as you've talked about, don't like to be very public a lot of times. So have you had to deal with a lot of conversations with guys to try and help?
Yeah, no, I have, and it's been one of the hardest hurdles that I have to kind of pick and choose from, because I get so many messages and on my social medias, and I kind of, morally I feel bad of answering someone and not the other. And in the end of the day, I'm also not a psychiatrist or a doctor that I should give advice, and I don't give advice, more than find help, try to get some structure around you, et cetera, et cetera. But in the end of the day, I try to get the approach of working the long game, see what I want to do long term, be a part of the right organizations, making plans with them that we still haven't started yet, and eventually, talk more and do more podcasts and stuff like that, because I feel like if I can spend my time talking to more people at once, I can help more people than sit and get through like 10 conversations per day, on my phone. It's sometimes it's really hard, because I see some messages come through, and it's it's all from mothers, fathers, kids, the stigma of, a mother being terrified of her son being diagnosed bipolar and think his life is over, that it kills me inside, because it's really not what it is. But I simply don't have the time to do all that, and that's hard. That sometimes it's hard, and then I got to think about the long game, keep being open and honest, keep taking some slack for being open and honest, and pay the price that way, and try to help people in masses instead of just per message.
Well, the work you've done is phenomenal. Like, we can't say thank you enough, just because you've helped people. And I got to feel like that's a pretty big thing to know, that you've done a lot of work to help people either seek help or just to make them feel like they're not alone. And so I don't know how that ranks with being an NHL player and wins and all that stuff, but I know it's got to be pretty well up there with great accomplishments that you've done.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't, it's really not why I'm doing it for. But again, I think in rehabilitation as well, or in the journey of staying in line with my medicines and all that stuff, is about helping other people too. It also helps myself, and obviously, I've seen what is done. More and more people as being open and honest ever since I started talking, and there's been a bunch of players reaching out. I know a lot of more players has gotten help, and just those small things that those things feels good, and just knowing, I was at their position at one point, and I wish that earlier in my career I had someone that pushed me in that direction as well. It's but again, the culture of sports in general, especially in hockey, it's been, you're quiet. You don't say much. You just go by your business, and any weakness is a weakness in hockey. You understand what I mean? So you tough it out.
Yeah. Quickly, before I got a couple of just other questions I want to ask you, and that is, you are 8-0-3 lifetime against the Ottawa Senators, 5-0-2 in Ottawa. Is there a reason why you've had the success you've had against your former team?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of I don't know. Maybe I'm just petty. I got very,
we all are. I get it.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I you know what? I love Ottawa. They drafted me, brought me into the NHL and all that stuff, but how it ended there, getting the concussion, it didn't really go well at all. And eventually, after a few weeks, I was sent home. And, Hamburglar, he went on his run, and that was great, but, sometimes you feel like you're a human being as well. And, the phone stopped ringing, and I got back in after the season, 5 minutes. Hey, you're getting traded. Bye-bye. It's I just don't, it's one thing, we're, everyone say it, we're just a piece of the chessboard, but a little bit of humanity would have been nice. And I was struggling quite a bit through that concussion, and there wasn't any help. So I guess I took a lot of anger to a lot of those games, but I don't have that anymore.
Interesting. I always just found that those numbers were fascinating to me. The other thing I found interesting, and you may have nothing to say about this, is the hour that you spent being a Toronto Maple Leaf. Do you remember? Do you remember being dealt to the Leafs?
Yeah, no, it was great. One of the Leafs' big mistakes.
Was it always a given that you were just going to end up in Vegas, or did you think that you were going to end up as a Toronto Maple Leaf?
No, I honestly, I did. I just, we don't find out from our agents anymore. I was just following draft day. I was in St. Louis at the time, so all of a sudden I saw traded to the Leafs, and then right away trade to Vegas. So everything happened kind of quick, and then agent calls you and just fills you in on the details.
And now, is Vegas the best thing that's happened in your career?
I mean, I've had a lot of, ups and downs. I had a lot of great things in my career. Long Island, I can't speak about Long Island. Good, it was so good there. They treated me so well. I think Long Island as a fan base honestly helped save my life. That's why I'm so passionate about them, my little journey with Chicago was great as well. But, being here in Vegas, fantastic organization, team, great players, obviously great living and all that stuff. It's obviously a blessing for me and my family. So we're very happy here.
And hey, are you going to win the Cup this year?
I hope so. I think we have all the tools for it, for sure. We have a few small hurdles left here. We've been close to 2 years in a row now to get to the final. So that's one thing with this team. It's a good pressure, and it's for all the players to have. They want to win here. So if you don't do your job, you're out of here. So it's in the end of the day, it's they expect to win the Cup here every year, and if they don't, they're going to make changes. So we go in. And that's the difference in being here than a lot of other teams I've been in. Sometimes you get stuck in career and rebuilds and teams that don't necessarily even want to win, and don't spend to the cap, don't try to be as competitive as possible. They do that here, and they get a little slack for that as well. But I mean, at least they do everything they can to win every year. And we as player, we know we have to perform or we're gone. So they bring in players that can handle that pressure, or if they can't, they fix it. It's just how it works. So I believe that's how a lot of any sports, winning teams, that's how it's done. You bring in what you need to bring in to win, and that's the mindset of a player, and there should be a mindset of a GM or a team in general. If you're not in it to win it, then what are you doing in the business to begin with? It's really how you have to approach it.
Last question before we let you go. What is it like to stand in your crease for the anthem in a home game in Vegas?
I mean, you can't really talk about how great our games until you're in the arena. It's truly a special atmosphere. It's nothing like it in the NHL. It's a big show. It's amazing fans, great passion. It's not hard to get up for games at home, that's for sure.
So good. Lenny, we appreciate your time. We know it's been busy for you, and you're just a couple days for the start of camp. So for you to take the time, it's been much appreciated. We've tried to get you on for about 6 months now. So finally, we were glad to catch up with you.
But nice seeing you guys.
Thanks, Lenny.
Take care,
take
my
care
friend.
of yourself. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Okay, bye.
Bye.
There goes Robin Lehner as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights, and certainly an outspoken advocate of mental health, and we wish him all the best. His movement, of course, is hashtag same here, the global mental health movement. And so all the best to Robin Lehner. Matt, I know he's dealt with problems, and in Ottawa, he had his issues with maybe his attitude or whatever, but boy, he's always been so good to deal with, even around for us. I just can't help but pull for the guy all the time.
Yeah, and we talk about it, and what great dialogue there. And I think it's great for a lot of people that are out there and maybe a little reluctant to speak up or get help. But even in Ottawa, he's always a great guy, and he's always been a pleasant person to be around. He just had some inside stuff that he had to deal with and work out, and of course, not to take lightly. It was significant in his life, and I think he made a conscientious decision with him and his family, Danya, to address it. And I mean, how many players go through something like this but manage to stay in that professional sport, to stay in the league? And so the amount of hurdles that he's had to go through or jump over to get to this point where he's in a really comfortable place and he's seeing some success on the ice, he's still playing at a high level. I couldn't be happier for him. So I'm wishing him all the best.
And the one thing is, and I don't think we can take and make light of this, is to make that first step and then to go public making that first step. Like, it's one thing for, like, I guess you and I, but he's on an international stage all the time.
Yeah.
You're in cup final, or if you're in the Western final, whatever it is, and you're talking about this and you're admitting to your struggles. Like, that is a massive, massive step. And I just have all the respect in the world for doing that.
I agree. It's the microscope effect, right, Wally? It's being under that microscope and everybody knowing that you have issues that you have to deal with. So again, very courageous of him. And I made this point earlier, and this is my last point I'll say. It's opening the door for a lot of players, a lot of athletes, a lot of people, everyday people, to come forward and address their issues and live a better life.
And do you know what? And the other side of that is, and this as a hockey player, you have to be consistently very good to stay in the league. And so for him to do that, and I'll call it, I don't think the word's a distraction, but to have all that stuff going on and still be the number one goalie on a Stanley Cup contending National Hockey League team, I don't know that gets stated enough of how big a deal that is, actually. Because if he is, let's call it, if you are a call-up or a bit player, or you know what I mean? You won't get the same attention that he does, being a Masterton Trophy winner, being a Jennings winner, right? So that there's just what he's been able to do and continue to play at a high level is massive. Before we go, time to bring in Craig, who always sits around and monitors the chat and tries not to let me talk very often if I can help it. He's been busy on the back end because he just did a little poll, asked people if I was a
it's
eater.
official.
Of course, I voted yes. Yeah,
there was somebody else
from what I saw.
Somebody else just snuck in another vote for you there, saying that you are not a picky eater. So it came in officially at 96%. Think that Brent might be a little bit picky with his food choices, but that's all good. I mean, just a little fun there. They were giving you a hard time because you said you didn't like shrimp sandwiches, which, I mean, off the top of, if you asked me if I'd like shrimp sandwiches, I don't think I would be a huge fan, but okay. I get it. You
have to see this, and I should have got a picture and had it ready. They're little small shrimps, and they didn't look like shrimp to me. They looked like another little squirrely thing that I just didn't want to eat. It just didn't look good on the plate.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
Like, they weren't king prawns. No. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. But I tried it because Alfie told me I had to go eat it, so I tried it.
High maintenance thing to say, though. Like, these shrimp were too small for me. I need big ass prawns on my plate.
Because you know what?
Come on.
It looked like an insect. It looked like they looked like a plate of insects that I didn't want to eat. That's all.
That's
I couldn't.
That's fair.
I couldn't.
Yeah,
the food. I like
the
shrimp.
food in Sweden's a little different. I can attest to this because I've spent time over there with the NHL. Like, when we were playing against San Jose, and I was with Columbus, and I think there were a lot of fish, and it was like herring, I think, was one of them. But it's just not for me. It's not for me.
So in 2007, we go over, they're playing Pittsburgh in the Premier Series. And it's the first time, I think, my cameraman, Dave Joy, and I have traveled overseas. And he's like, on the way there, he's like, I've been practicing. I've got some phrases down, and I'm ready to go in my Swedish. So we land. He's like, let's go get a beer. I'm like, all right. So we go to an English pub, of course. But anyway, we get in there, and he's like, I got this. So he says whatever he says. And the server goes, and she starts to laugh. And he goes, I think I ordered 2 beers, didn't I? And he goes, no, you said you liked my boobs. Oh my God. It's like, all right, then. It's like, can we just get 2 beers, please?
Yeah. The only significant thing that I can remember, one of the main things I remember from going to Stockholm was our training staff in Columbus. They weren't small guys, okay? They liked to eat. They were a little bit larger, but beauties, like great guys. But We were there for like 2 days, and on day 2, I remember them all coming into the room, and they're like, "It's crazy how small and lean everybody is here in Sweden." Like they were getting looks. They were getting looks from people on the sidewalk just walking around. So I still remember thinking, like, man, these guys are getting fat shamed on the road, and they're not even being mean to anybody. It's not fair. But culturally, it's certainly different over there, and their diet is a lot different. I'm sure they're healthier, and that was probably the biggest takeaway that I can remember from the trip.
Such beautiful country, though.
It is. Yeah.
All right. So, and I know, Craig, that you haven't dealt with Robin in the past, but I know you've dealt with guys who have tried to, find their way, I guess, in the league as they started as new guys. Yeah. It's a lot, right? Like to be able to have somebody come out and be as open and honest as Robin Lehner.
Yeah, I worked with Robin a little bit. Like when I started, it was I started maybe 2 months before the Hamburglar run. So like he was around, he was just kind of, I think it was right around when he got injured. Like, so we didn't spend a lot of time working together. But I mean, it's not uncommon to see those kinds of demons in some people, right? Whether it's mental health or substance or whatever, it's not uncommon, man. I mean, these guys don't live a regular life. So it's not crazy to think that maybe they'd have some issues along the way. Robin's thing, that's always kind of what we'd heard was just that maybe he was struggling with some things. My thing was we never asked, right? We just kind of, how can we support him and whatever, but he wasn't there long enough. So there's some other guys like Nick Paul's a guy that we did a little bit more mental health stuff with, kind of around Bell Let's Talk and that type of stuff. And the guys who figure it out, man, they almost become different people. Like they start talking a little differently, and you can just see like that they get it, and it almost always gets accompanied with like a boost in play. Like, and that's what happened with Robin Lehner, and that's what happened with Nick Paul. Like, I don't want to base it off of just the 2 guys that I saw do that with, but you'd see that if you do take care of your mental health the same way that you take care of your physical health, like you can see the effects of that on the ice. And I think Robin's a great example of that. How cool is it that he still shouts out the Islanders too, right? That was like 3 teams ago. And he's still
been getting a lot of love from that group.
Yeah, there was something special
they still
there
love
with him
him
in that group. So yeah, so it's kind of cool to see, right? Like I'm sure that's something that probably helped him along the way.
Yeah, it's too bad he couldn't. I know he wanted to sign there, and I don't know how it all played out, but I know he wanted to stay in Long Island. Anyway, good stuff today. Let's start to wrap it up as we get into our trivia, which, by the way, the Danbury Trashers, I had George LaRocque follow us after the show aired, and the Danbury Trashers and their PR guy, their former radio guy, has followed us. Like, we are now going to be members of the Danbury Trashers forever.
I love it. Yeah, it's great. We got a lot of good reception with that one. T-Bone too. He's a polarizing fellow. I don't know if you've noticed that, but he's a lot of fun with that one. So yeah, he's really good. Yeah, it's a nice way to put it. He was a great guest. We got a lot of good stuff out of him. But at the end of that one, we asked a trivia question about the Danbury Trashers, and it was a very Danbury Trashers question. So we're giving away a puck luck game from our friends at Gong Show. They're the best. We've been giving away a couple of these lately. They've been flying out off the shelves for us. We also have a pretty dope line with Gong Show too, so make sure to head over to gongshow.com to check it out. But the question was, who is the all-time leader in penalty minutes for the Danbury Trashers? And surprise, surprise, it's the lunatic Brad Wingfield. So shout out to at my friend Mucky for getting that one right. You scored yourself a puck luck game. We're going to slide into your DMs and figure out how to get it to you. And yeah, thanks again for everyone who entered, and everyone who checked out the documentary and our interview with T-Bone as well, because that was a lot of fun.
Good stuff. Again, thank you to all of our sponsors, which includes Barhaven Ford, BEI, Whitewater, Sports Interaction, and of course, Gong Show. I enjoyed today's episode. I enjoyed talking about the Sens with Sylvain St-Laurent as well. So
great.
Until Thursday, gentlemen, go enjoy yourselves. We'll see you maybe on the golf course.
Ooh. Sounds good.
See you later. That's the Wally Methot Show live, powered by Barhaven Ford. Time for us to drive on out of here.